Story is not over yet. Straight ahead, we'll show you where more rain and flooding from Isaac could disrupt your holiday weekend.
From the Weather Channel headquarters in Atlanta, you're watching a special Weather Center Live Tracking Isaac. The time now is 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central. Thanks for joining us as we bring you live round-the-clock coverage of Isaac. I'm Vivian Brown.
And I'm Nick Walker. Now, if you're just tuning in, Isaac has now been downgraded to a tropical depression. But it's still cranking out big-time rain amounts, wind, even some tornadoes.
Here is the very latest. Now, this hour, the American Red Cross says between their shelters and state shelters, about 8,000 people are staying in the shelters. And they expect that number to go up because more than 1 million people are without power. FEMA says the Army Corps of Engineers has sent additional pumps to help relieve pressure on the Lake Tangipahoa Dam, where a controlled release is underway. Pressure is also being relieved on a levee in the Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana area as well.
Got some brand new video into us now showing you the scene in St. Bernard's Parish, Louisiana, opening the floodgates. We are continuing to see just a horrible situation here with so many people evacuated from Plaquemines Parish due to the heavy rainfall and, of course, the flooding and the surge from Isaac. So we're continuing to see problems there, but the floodgates being open.
Yeah, from the beginning we were saying this was our biggest concern, and as mentioned, we haven't closed the book on Isaac just yet. Our crews are still out there bringing you the story of what's happening right now and talking to people most affected.
Right now we want to take you to Slidell, Louisiana. Meteorologist Reynolds Wolf is there, and Reynolds, bring us up to date.
Well, the latest from Slidell, Louisiana is some good news, and that is that the water is slowly beginning to recede, which is really wonderful for the residents who call this area home. Yeah, Slidell is a railroad town that was founded back in the 1880s, and there is a railroad that basically intersects the city. On one side, you have, of course, the north half, where you have plenty of water as far as the eye can see, where just 24 hours ago, 36 hours ago, conditions were fine. You obviously see off the distance some people walking through. Obviously, the water not quite as much of an obstacle as it was earlier when everything was open and passable, with the exception of armored personnel carriers and boats. But right now, again, it is fairly grim, even though the water is going down, and then the cleanup will begin. Let's go right to some video that'll show you the story of what has happened to the neighborhoods, the places these people care about so much, and understandably so. This is a delightful community here, wonderful people, a lot of pride, and certainly, unfortunately right now, a tremendous issue with those floodwaters. As they begin to recede, and they should recede with greater rapidity into the afternoon, into the evening, it is going to be better, but still we have some scattered showers that come through, not enough to really stop the dropping waters, but still enough to cause a few headaches. Now, what's interesting is normally you have your flooding on the north side. We've had it actually flood over on the south side, on the other side of the tracks. The reason why is because floodwaters went over and around a pump, and now the downtown area of Old Town is flooded. What's even more ironic is that you have some businesses there that were actually shut down 7 years ago from Hurricane Katrina. Those businesses, many of which reopened just 7 days ago, are now underwater. Some of them have standing water anywhere from 3 to 4 feet. They'll be closed for some time to come. That's the latest. Let's send it back to you in the studio.
All right. Thanks very much. Reynolds Wolf, of course, reporting from Slidell, Louisiana. I mean, this is literally deja vu of the worst kind.
It really is. And obviously, it's going to wreak havoc with you, emotionally and mentally, as well as, of course, physically, too. Well, the flood threat, the tornado threat, both very serious issues right now.
Let's bring in our severe weather expert, Dr. Greg Forbes, because, Dr. Forbes, we're still talking about the threat of tornadoes.
We are. Storm Prediction Center reissued the tornado watch until 10 p.m. now for parts of the Gulf Coast states, the areas east of Isaac Center. Take a look. Here's Isaac Center over north central parts of Louisiana, headed northwestward. Ultimately, it'll turn back to the northeast, but the fastest winds aloft, a few thousand feet aloft, are a couple hundred miles off to the east of that. They're still 55 miles per hour, and you combine that with surface winds that are slower and more from the southeast, you have the kind of turning of the winds with height that let tornadoes form. I wanted to show you a little bit more about that. Imagine the surface winds are from this direction, and then they're faster aloft. And imagine your hands, put your hands one on top of the other and make them move in different directions. And if you do so, imagine putting a pencil in between there. The pencil would roll like a log kind of rolling down the road. These thunderstorms that are embedded in these bands have little updraft centers that pull the air upward, and that can take and turn those horizontal rolls into vertical tornado-like circulations at low levels inside the storms, and that's how the tornadoes can form, and they do that very quickly in this kind of a tropical environment. The tornado warning that had been in effect for Jackson County, Mississippi has expired. We did have a reported tornado there near St. Martin, number 15 thus far at least, from Isaac. We continue to see those heavy rain bands across the area. Tornado watch continues across much of central and south Mississippi, a little bit of west Alabama, and that goes until 10 p.m. Torcon values I've given 6 for the central Mississippi area where the threat is slowly increasing, still 5 where it will slowly decrease a little farther south down near the coastal areas, and tomorrow we'll have not a real high threat, but some threat still. Torcons of 4 parts Arkansas, Missouri, maybe a little bit east of the Mississippi River there, and a rain and flooding threat as well. Look at that. And it's so saturated. All the places now that are getting these up to 2-inch-per-hour rain bands are still getting flooding, and that heavy rain threat, it's gradually going to become less of a flood threat, but it will turn and continue for several days up into the Ohio Valley with heavy rain. So Isaac's impacts will continue. Vivian?
All right, thanks very much, Dr. Forbes.
And, of course, Isaac's move inland is painfully slow, which is bad news for the Gulf Coast. Those floodwaters, the power outages, heavy winds continuing. So stay with us as we track the storm right into your Labor Day holiday.